I am going to talk about teachers' social and emotional competence and well-being and its implications for student learning. And then I'll first briefly introduce the field of social and emotional learning, very briefly, and then my research projects and some of my preliminary findings from my ECS project, which is related to teachers' social and emotional competence. So I want to introduce the key terms that I'm going to use a lot today. So social and emotional competence, what is that? It's a set of many different kinds of abilities, like cognitive, emotional, behavior abilities that enable us to make a healthy relationship with ourselves and also with others. So the most famous framework of defining and measuring social emotional competence is the KSOL-5. It's called KSOL-5. And we have self-awareness, self-management, social awareness and relationship skills, and responsible decision making. So it's a quite broad array of different kinds of non-academic competences, but it's also related to, it's known to be related to academic competence as well. So social and emotional learning, which I call SEL, is an educational intervention to promoting SEC. It's not a specific curriculum or program. It's also an umbrella term referring to various approaches to promoting SEC of individuals. And it's typically adopted in the school setting, mostly in the classroom settings, and targeting all students, not just the subgroup of students, for example, at-risk students, but it's more typically adopted as a universal preventive approach in the school setting. So this school-based SEL has quite a long history, and there has been a substantial research evidence that supports the benefit of student development and well-being to the extent that we have a meta-analysis of meta-analysis. Overall, the school-based SEL has shown to be bring positive effects to students. And globally, it's also accepted well and recognized by many international organizations like UNESCO, OECD, WHO. For example, recently, the UNESCO has published the policy guide on mainstreaming SEL in educational setting. And I had the opportunity to participate in this writing of this policy guide as a co-author. And also the OECD is also doing the international surveys of social emotional skills. I also serve as one of the expert panel members in the third round of data collection. So in the field, we talk a lot about student SEL, student SEC for their mental and behavioral health. But in practice, more and more people agree that teachers' SEC is actually the essential ingredient to make the SEL work in the routine school settings. Why? Well, first of all, teaching is a socially and emotionally demanding job. So they also need the kind of competence that help their mental health. And also teachers, if they want to teach something to students, they should have that competence that they want to teach to students. And also teachers are the ones who can directly shape the learning environment and climate that students can thrive or not, socially and emotionally. And teachers, from the implementation science perspective, teachers are the frontline practitioners, implementers of the SEL program that's known to be effective in the experimental setting, in the routine setting. So they can actually determine the effects of the program, evidence-based program, in the routine setting. So and more literature kind of agree that, okay, teachers' social emotional competence is really important. And particularly in the East Asian school context, teachers are experiencing quite high stress, burnout, and mental health challenges for themselves due to many reasons. And then they also have received little training or support for their own SEL and for their SEL practices for students. So I don't know if you're familiar with this, but in South Korea, there has been a series of suicidal cases by teachers, school teachers. So that kind of raised the social awareness of teachers' mental health and the importance of the support provided for teachers, and that will ultimately help students. Research gaps, there are many different questions we want to ask, but what I want to emphasize today is that there has been little empirical evidence on the link between teachers' SEC and students' social and emotional learning outcomes and the mechanisms behind. So in my previous research in California, I kind of pilot tested this hypothesis that teacher SEC will affect their SEL practice, and that will affect student learning outcomes. Well, this was one of the first studies that actually empirically examined this idea, but at that time there was no validated measure of teacher SEC, and then the lesson delivery, the mediator, was only focused on the number of the lessons delivered, so only focused on the dose. And yeah, of course, it's only within the California context. So I wanted to expand this research in the East Asian context. So SEL Asia Plus is my research lab. I work with my students and collaborators, and we do a lot of different research projects on teacher SEC and student SEC and SEL. So we developed a scale called Multidimensional Assessment of Teacher SEC called MEDSEC. And we validated this measure, one of the first multidimensional measures in the field that has been validated with East Asian teachers. And also, we are receiving many requests from the researchers interested, which I'm excited about. And we have been examining the roles of teacher SEC first in their teacher well-being. So for example, in Korea, we found that teachers' SEC promoted mental health, their teachers' mental health and teachers' job-related well-being. And also in mainland context, it also functioned as a buffer from protective factor from the burnout experiences. And we are also exploring the roles of teacher SEC in teachers' SEL practices and student outcomes. And one of the ongoing qualitative studies in Korea, one of the themes that we identified is that teacher SEC is a foundation for teachers' practice of SEL. And in my ECS project, I'm asking this question, whether and how teacher SEC actually predicts student social and emotional learning outcomes. So a little bit of background of my ECS study. There is a parent study, larger scale study. This focused on the evaluation of SEL program for anti-bullying in Hong Kong public primary schools. And today's focus, we're still collecting the data in the 2-year implementation phase. But today I'm going to present only the first year taster school version of the data. So in this taster school, they only deliver just one session about SEL, very basic session to students, upper grade students. And then class teachers are the one who deliver this lesson. And the sample size is like this, over 1,300 students nested in 104 classrooms. So we measure teachers' SEC at baseline before they deliver the session, and then also measure student SEC before and after the lesson. Overall, this is not RCT, but overall, students' SEC has increased from baseline to post-test. But interestingly, there is intra-class correlation coefficients around 0.08, which indicates that around 8% of the student SCC can be explained at the classroom level. So this is the interclass correlation at the classroom level. So my question is whether this variation at the classroom level can be explained by teachers' own social emotional competence. Yeah, so what we control for student baseline SCC and other demographic covariates, like at the student level and teacher level. And then baseline teacher SCC predicted their teaching quality. And this teaching quality was rated by students, whether the teachers were doing a good job of delivering this lesson, poor to great. And then this teaching quality predicted students' outcome at SCC measured at the post-test. And the mediation effect from teacher SCC to teaching quality to student post-test SCC, controlling for their baseline, was significant. So this is only the preliminary findings using the first year study, using the taster version. So I will keep exploring these relationships with further data to be collected. But so far, teacher SCC seems to explain the variations in SEL implementation and intervention outcomes. So we should provide, well, the practical implications might be that we should provide more training and support for teachers to be able to actually help the students better and to ensure the benefits of school-based SEL are realized in the routine practice settings. Yeah, that's the end of my presentation. I have a lot to thank. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Thank you.